This week on Uncut Gems with Slim. You driving and somebody pull out in front of you and they going slow and be like, "Now, girl, why you pull out in front of me?" Every time that happens, I be like, dang, that's probably somebody's grandmama. Baby, I wish somebody might try to yell at my grandma, because my grandma is the sweetest person ever. Don't y'all be yelling at her when she driving. What a ride. It is the season finale of season 3 of Uncut Gems with Slim. Shout out to everybody who's been tuning in, people who've been giving me feedback, who've been enjoying this season, especially on Instagram. Like, y'all have been going crazy on Instagram. Uncut Gems with Slim has surpassed 10,000 followers, so shout out to you guys. If you're not following us over there already, make sure you go ahead and follow us on Instagram at Uncut Gems with Slim. And then also, if you're listening to the audio podcast, make sure you tap into us here on YouTube. Like, the visual is stunning, okay, and it's giving everything and more. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube, because as we transition between seasons, I have some exciting news. We are going to be doing some creator-based content. So it's going to be like educational style content, gems that will be dropping for you as a content creator. If you're interested in tech, if you're interested in just creating, I'm gonna be giving you guys a whole bunch of content. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into what we are talking about today. So last week we talked about different types of communities and how they all impact your life. And as we unpack that conversation and the uniqueness in everyone's journey, it reminded me that we're all human. One of the first things I want to cover is the 2 moments in life where I realized, like, oh my gosh, like, you're a regular person too. And let me give you some context. So for me, I grew up in a 2-parent household. Like, my mom, my dad, they were always there for me. And that's who they were. Like, my dad is my dad. My mom is my mom. And I remember distinctly the moment that I realized, the conversation that I had where I realized that my mom is human. Like, she's a person too. Like, her only job in life isn't to be my mom. Like, she is so much more than a mother. She's so much more than just my mom. She's a wife to my dad. She's a daughter. She's a sister. She's a niece. Like, she's a whole bunch of different things, not just in the titles that she carries, but all in all, like, she's a human too. And so the conversation we had, I'll never forget this. I was in college and I grew up like in a strict household. Like, we wasn't going to team parties. We wasn't really even allowed to hang out with friends like that outside of when you're already at school or, like, you know, your extracurricular activities. Like, we wasn't just allowed to hang out at every Tom, Jane, and Sally house. We was at school and we was at home and we was at church. Pretty much it. And when we did hang out with people outside of school, it was family. It wasn't like we just was around everybody all the time and, you know, getting to hang out with the cool kids outside of school. So when I went to college, you know, typically people who grow up with a stricter upbringing, when they get to college or when they have that moment where they're able to just go off and be on their own. Well, I'm gonna speak for me. So when I went to college, I was like, I'm about to have a time, okay? And can't nobody tell me what to do. But at the same time, when I was like finding my way and navigating college and being on my own for the first time, there was still kind of a little bit of a leash on me. And it makes me think about Proverbs 22:6. It says, train up a child in a way that he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. And that's what I kind of think about. I think about, like, you know, in the country when you have them dogs on the chain attached to the tree, like, they gonna pitter patter as far as they can go. But as soon as that chain, you know what I'm saying? Like, they can't go no further. That's how it was for me, or at least that's how I thought about my college lifestyle when I first got to college. I was like, yeah, I'm a dibble and dabble. I'm a go out and do this and that, but I ain't gonna go too far. This ain't give an inch, take a mile. Like, give an inch, I'm gonna take a couple meters, a couple yards. Not going a whole mile just yet. Like, I'm not about to depart too far from what my mama and daddy taught me. So because when I went off to college, I didn't really feel like I was necessarily doing something wrong, but I knew I was doing things that, like, if I told my mom what I was doing, she'd be like, no, Jazzy. I talk to my mama every day. So it got to a point where I started lying to my mama, y'all, and it was like them little small lies that you ain't think nothing of. So like I would go out, right? It'd be like 10 o'clock. I'm in the car riding with my girls. I'm like, y'all hush. My mama calling. So I pick up the phone and I be like, hey, yeah, I'm in the bed. I'll call you in the morning. Alright, bye. And then I hang up and then we crank up the music and then we be on our way to the club, right? And one day I remember having this conversation with her and she was like, Jazzy, I know you be going to the club. And I was like, I was like, what you mean I be going to the club? Who told you that? Where you get that from? Like, what you talking about? And she was like, girl, I done been there, done that, got a t-shirt. Like, you're in college. I understand that. And then we went further to kind of discussing how when she would ask me where I'm going and stuff like that, it wasn't because there was any, like, she was trying to mommy me. It was more so like, girl, if something happened to you, they gonna call me. So I want to know where you are for your safety. And so like I said, growing up with both my parents in the house, like I have such a respect for them. And I look to them for guidance, just like if you were taking a class and you expect your teacher to know the answers. Like if you taking a class and your teacher don't know the answers, you be like, I'm in the wrong class. But because your teacher has experience in that area, like you expect them to know what they talking about. And then when you have questions, you also expect them to give you the right answers. And it makes me think about how with our parents growing up, if you have like an upbringing where you have that reverence and respect for your parents and, you know, you're learning from them throughout your first 18 years or so of life, it's like, yeah, y'all supposed to tell me what's right. Y'all supposed to tell me, you know, if I got a question, I'm coming to you. Y'all supposed to have the answers. Y'all supposed to tell me what's right. Like, when I'm confused, y'all supposed to clear it up. And I would say, like, that's placing a lot on parents. And now that I'm, like, reaching my 30s and will be a parent to someone one day, like, I'm thinking, like, child, I would be winging it. Like, if I had a baby today, I would be winging it. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I know a little bit because I am an auntie, but it's just like you doing the best that you can. And it's not until you kind of get older, I feel like, that you realize if you have parents like my parents, your parents did the best that they could do. They gave you the best answers. What they knew was to be right. Like, they did their best. But at the end of the day, they're humans too. And when I had that conversation with my mom, it was like, okay, girl, you've been to the club too. You know, one day, back in the day, you was 21. And you probably encountered similar situations that I encountered. You probably, you know, have had the questions that I have, even though it was a different time. Like, they have been there. Which means the way that I'm feeling, they probably felt and was confused too. Which helped me become aware and like open up a new level to our relationship when I understood that she was human just like I'm human. And it's not to glorify the fact that, you know, we're humans and we're gonna make mistakes. It's not about that. It's more so about acknowledging the fact that we are all people. We all have had our stories. We all is just trying to figure it out. We're trying to, you know, understand and discern. Like, we are all out here, honestly, just vibing. We just vibing with the Bible. The day that I had that conversation with her, I feel like we just transcended into another level of our relationship where I no longer felt the need to like hide things from my mom. Not that I didn't feel like I could come to her with things, but I felt like I could communicate more freely and more authentically without feeling like, oh, like if I tell her this, I'm gonna get in trouble. I feel like when you grow up and you have like a very disciplined, you know, upbringing, you can sometimes feel like, I don't want to tell them because I don't want to get in trouble, kind of thing. But as I got older, and I'm saying this because if you're younger than me, I want you to be able to formulate this kind of relationship sooner than later, because you'll be able to really, really get a better understanding of not only that part of your community, your family, but also you get to understand the differences between, you know, who your mom is as a mom and who your mom actually is, who your dad is as a dad, but who your dad actually is, what they like to do, what their past was like, how do they formulate their decisions and things like that. And so after that conversation, I definitely feel like honesty became like the foundation of our relationship, and I no longer had to like hide portions of my reality from her. And like I said, moms, they gonna be moms, but they are humans too. Like, there's so much more to moms than just mommy. As you continue to build like an authentic relationship with your mom or whoever it may be. And in my case, like, y'all, I literally formed a friendship with my mom. And I know growing up, it was like, I'm your mama, I ain't one of your little friends. She definitely one of my little friends now, okay? Like, in the best way possible. I definitely think there's a happy medium of, you know, friendship and that being your mom. I don't know, I just feel like after I put two and two together, like, okay, she's a human too, she ain't just my mama. Like, it kind of narrowed the gap between her being my mom and her being like, I don't know, someone, I don't know, like, it just narrowed the gap between feeling like I could only come to her as a daughter versus I could come to her as a friend. Like, being able to come to your mom as a friend is a beautiful thing, because my mom always had my best interest at heart. She may not deliver it in the way that I want her to say it. Like, it might not always sound cute, it might not always be fuzzy, but at the end of the day, like, she gonna ride for me, and that's on period. And so being able to come to her in all areas, whether that be my love life, you know, whatever it is, decisions I have to make. And it requires growth on both sides. Because after that conversation that we had a little iron sharpening iron moments. Like, we had some uncomfortable conversations and things like that. But to be on the other side of those conversations, to see how much we've grown just from being authentic with each other, being able to talk to each other and sometimes remove emotion from the conversation so we can get resolution to whatever it may be. Like, there has been so much growth on my part and on her part. And I say this because if you just box in, you know, your parent, your siblings in that box of just like, okay, that's my sister or that's my mom, you can limit yourself to only a portion of who they really are versus allowing yourself to access them fully as who they are completely, and not just like this version of them. Hopefully that makes sense. And then another time is when I realized my sister was human. So again, growing up, my sister, she's older than me, and she always set the example. She is like a gold star role model. Like, she would always get good grades, she would do good things, she was involved in extracurricular activities, like all the things growing up. So of course, as the baby in the family, as the little sister, I'm gonna look up to her, I'm gonna follow in her footsteps, I'm gonna try to achieve the standards she set or exceed them. Like, that is my purpose. Like, she has left the footsteps in the sand for me to walk and follow. And so that's how I viewed my sister. It wasn't until she was in dental school and they had like a wine event, right? They had like a wine tasting event and she invited me. By this time, I was obviously 21. And I was like, okay, girl, like, I'm gonna come down and visit you and we gonna have some fun. So I'm excited because this is my first like real time hanging out with my sister, right? On some big girl type stuff. So I'm excited. We go down there and like she's around all of her friends. This is like my first real time seeing her around her friends and all of these things. And she's like having a good time. She's dancing and all these things. And I'm like, who is this woman? Because I don't know her. And again, I had that epiphany, like, oh my gosh, like, she is a human. Like, there's so much more to her than the version of her that's a sister to me. Like, there's so much more. And when I realized that, and it wasn't necessarily that my mom or my sister were only giving me a portion of them, it was more so my perspective, where the way that I viewed them kind of put them in a box. And so, like, I viewed my sister as like, oh my God, she does everything perfect. She is like just this golden sweet angel. And when I realized, like, you know, there's a lot more to her than what she's achieved in school and like the different things she's done to be a role model to me. Like, she's a human. Like, she likes to have fun and all these other things. And again, I feel like in that moment, I accessed a new level of friendship with my sister and just like getting to understand her more. I got to understand that, you know, she isn't perfect. I'm not perfect. I just got to realize that, you know, she's someone to other people. Like, she's not just my sister. She's not just like, she's somebody's friend. She's somebody's daughter. She's somebody's niece. Like, now she's somebody's mother. So like, it's like a lot of different things that I feel like sometimes we can like put our blinders on and just view a person in the relationship that we know them to be, versus like who they are across the board as a person. And then that also showed me how uniquely beautiful everyone is. And so just like how you heard my stories about my mom and my sister, like, everyone in this world has a unique story. Like, any person you see is someone's son or daughter, and they all have their own stories. And when I started to understand this, it allowed me to start navigating life with a heart posture that reflects grace. So think about if you driving and somebody pull out in front of you and they going slow, and you want to just honk and say all the little things up under your breath and be like, nah, girl, why you pull out in front of me? And then you go to pass them and you see it's like a real old lady. Every time that happens, or like it's an old person driving wild on the streets, I be like, dang, that's probably somebody's grandmama. And when I think about it that way, I be like, baby, I wish somebody might try to yell at my grandma, because my grandma is the sweetest person ever. Don't y'all be yelling at her when she driving. Like, you gonna dishevel and shake her up more by honking at her instead of just going around it if she going slow. So when I think about these scenarios and I'm like, dang, like, that could have been my grandmama, or dang, that could have been my mama or my sister, it allows me to be like, you know, let me extend some grace and not be so like ready to pop off when things aren't peaches and cream. Same thing with like the drive-thru. If you're going through the drive-thru and the person got an attitude, like, you don't have to snap and pop back off right at them for having an attitude. You don't know what they been going through. Just like you have bad days, other people have bad days too. So there's no need to react negatively when you encounter someone that's having a bad day. Don't allow like what they have going on to directly impact how your day is going, because you don't know. If you in the drive-thru and the person on the speaker get nasty with you, or like they just have an attitude, like, you don't know what they going through. This could be their third shift and this is the only way that they can provide for their kids. Like, you don't know what their story is. You don't know why. You don't know the why behind their attitude. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of times we don't. So in those scenarios when it's just like, okay, why you being weird to me? Like, it's so easy to just let it go or let it be. Or those are opportunities where you can sow seeds of kindness. Like, I feel like the more that you understand, like, everyone has a story, everyone has a unique journey through every day that they live out. When you remember that, you give a little bit more grace than when you're just navigating life with you as the main character. This season, we talked about many different things and practical ways to grow in different areas of your life. And one of the most important things to remember is at the end of the day gonna end. What Glorilla say? But basically, like, at the end of the day, we're all humans. We make mistakes and we fall short sometimes. We are not perfect. So it's imperative for us to extend grace to ourselves when we're navigating these things and when we're falling short or make mistakes. Romans 3:23 and 24 says, "For there is no distinction, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and are justified by his grace as a gift through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus." And Easter just passed, y'all know, like, God gave his only son to die on the cross for our sins. That's love. Like, that's love. Like, Jesus paid the price. Grace is a gift from God. And Hebrews 4:16 says, "Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in the time of need." So go to God in your time of need. When you need grace, when you like, baby, I ain't got it, go to God, because he is the giver of grace. Like, he is the one who extends grace, the throne of grace. Hello. Like, go to God when you need grace. And if God can give us grace when we be messing up and doing wrong things, like, you can give yourself grace. If God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, can extend grace when you do wrong, then you should be able to extend grace to yourself in those moments as well. And so as we wrap up this season, if you ask me, like, Slim, girl, have you been practicing what you preach? Have you been doing all the things that you've been telling us to do? Girl, the answer is I'm trying. Like, and that's just enough. I feel like every day I'm making progress. I'm trying to be more disciplined, getting more rest, girl, being conscious of my reactions to change and all the things. But there are also days where I fall short. There's days where I go to the gym before I read my Bible. Like, there are times where I just don't have it. And in those moments, I have to extend myself grace, because if I don't, I'll get frustrated from placing an expectation on myself to perform at 100% all of the time. Baby, the best machines don't even perform at 100% accuracy. So it's not realistic for us to expect that we're gonna perform at 100% accuracy day in and day out. Because again, we're all human, we're not perfect. And this kind of leads me back to the importance of us holding tight to God's grace and extending grace to ourselves and other people. Moral of the story, we all need God's grace when life be lifing. I hope you guys enjoyed this season of Uncut Gems with Slim. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram at Uncut Gems with Slim. And don't forget, next we will be diving into some creator-based content. So make sure you are subscribed on our YouTube channel, also at Uncut Gems with Slim. I love y'all so much, and until next season. Uncut Gems.